Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, our guest is Amy Orr, and we are going to talk about menstruation and periods and basically period education. But I want to read a little blurb before we say hello to Amy. Even though 51% of the population will experience periods at some stage in their lives, period education is greatly lacking in schools. Amy Orr is working to educate and empower young people to open up the conversation and break the stigma surrounding periods and to help alleviate period poverty in Ireland by supplying free reusable cloth pads to students through her Navigating Periods with Confidence program. Amy, we are so excited to talk to you about this. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to get started.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I could talk about this all day, every day.
Good.
Well, that's kind of amazing because most people will shy away from speaking about anything, period, at all. But what I was curious about, I understand you have a story about your first period. Could you tell us about that and how it
Yeah,
led or didn't lead to the work you're doing today?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, your first period, it's kind of like a core memory, isn't it? It's something that will always stick with you. It doesn't matter where you are, how it happened, whether it was traumatic or whether it was a positive experience. It's just a core memory that will stick with every woman or person. So mine was, I was a month away from my 16th birthday, so I was quite old, and I was the last of my friends in my friend group. And my parents moved to Spain when I was, yeah, so I was 15. My parents moved to Spain, and my mum was kind of back and forth between Ireland and Spain. She was finishing up work, a few things with work before she moved over full time. So I had started school, and it was just me and my dad. And then lo and behold, the one time my mum wasn't there.
Oh, no.
I know, I got my period. I mean, no matter how prepared you are for it, it's always a shock. It's always going to be a shock because you don't know when it's going to happen and you don't know how you're going to feel. And so there's so many emotions going on. So you're like, you're happy, but also you're like, you're sad and you're worried, but also like, you're like, oh my God. Yeah, so I was feeling so many things. I was like angry and upset that my mum wasn't there, but then I was like so happy I had my period, and obviously I understood why she wasn't there. And to this day, like, she still feels bad about it. Like, she'll still turn around to me and she's like, I'll never forget it, that phone call.
Oh, poor
Um,
mom.
yeah. Anyway, she, like, I was absolutely fine. She rang my dad, so I rang her. She rang my dad and she was like, Amy got her period. Don't say anything to her. Just bring her to the shop, give her some money. Don't ask any questions and just get her some chocolate. He did that. So we went into the town, and it just so happened that it was like a holiday in Spain. So everywhere was closed. And there was one pharmacy that was open, and they had a choice between panty liners or tampons. And I was like, I wasn't even going to even try and figure out how to use the tampon at that stage. I was like, I don't even know.
Right.
So I bought the panty liners, and thankfully, like, it was really light,
Mhm.
but it's really the only thing I had access to. I didn't know where else to go. Thankfully, like, they did okay. It was quite light. So I mean, I was lucky because if it was like any heavier, then I would have been scuppered really. But all in all, not the worst experience.
But you survived.
I survived. Yeah. And my dad was great, and he did get me chocolate, and he got me some paracetamol, and he didn't ask any questions. And
And how did that experience inform or lead to what you're doing today?
what happened was, like, my mom, like, I knew what to expect because my mom spoke with me, and I have an older sister as well. I knew that, like, I wasn't my mom was quite old and my sister was quite old, so I knew there wasn't anything wrong in that sense. So it's just so many people don't have such a positive experience. We certainly didn't learn anything about it in school,
Mhm.
apart from the usual, like we did biology in like it would have been like second level school, so we would have been 12, 13 starting, and you do biology, but it's really just like this is the male reproductive system, this is the female reproductive system, this is how a baby is
Mhm.
made. There was nothing about periods at all, or any like certainly no information with what comes with them, and there's so much to it. And like the fact that a period is only one part of the entire menstrual cycle, and it's such a complex process.
Mhm.
And 51% of the entire, like, there's 8 billion people on this planet, like 51% at some stage in their life. Nothing has changed since my day in school. I'm 37 now, and there's still no education in schools
Yeah.
here. I certainly don't
Same in
think
the US.
we're not, yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of countries, actually. It's not just, there's nothing special about us. It seems to be like a global issue, which is kind of sad because it's 2025, you know? I mean, we've come a
Yeah.
long way, but there's still so far to go.
Tell us about navigating periods with confidence and what you
Yeah.
do.
So I set up my own business in 2019. I set up Yumi. So I started off selling plastic-free reusable products. So included in that were the period cloth pads. When I first started off selling those, I had my very first market. I didn't sell any of them, but I had loads of people ask me questions. And then the month after, the next month, my second market, the same people came back and bought one to try. And then they just kept coming back to buy them again, more and more. But it was such a new concept, I suppose, the cloth pads, the reusable products. And I got so many questions about them. And just over the past 5 years, I've since started stocking like period pants and menstrual cups. And through conversations with my customers, like I've given talks and workshops over the last 6 years on various aspects of like plastic free living and zero waste and stuff like that. But like periods is really, it's one of the subjects that I'm really passionate about. Yeah, and then I read this study that was done back in 2018 by a global organization called Plan International. So Plan Ireland did a study on like 1,100 students between the ages of 12 and 19. The stats from that were just really, really sad. And that was only like 1,100 students. I think it was 50% of those students found it difficult to pay for sanitary products. 61% missed school because they had their period, potentially because they were either ashamed. 55% were ashamed of their period, and 10% of those 1,100 people were using alternatives to period products. So probably tissue paper, whatever, I don't know what
Mhm.
those alternatives were, but they weren't ideal either. And that was just 1,100 people. So nationally, the number's going to be a lot bigger. And for such a rich country as Ireland is, it was just really sad to read about it. So I was like, yeah, I developed this workshop. So I've been doing that full time now since May last year. And I'm working with my local council here, and they have sponsored starter kits for students for me to supply to students free of charge. So the starter kit has like 4 different sized cloth pads.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so we've distributed 240 of them so far since September last year. And
Congratulations. That's really great work.
I
You
mean,
know,
that's only 240 students, but like the impact that that can have is
That's
like,
huge.
yeah,
it's, yeah,
because that ripples out. You're affecting more than just the 240 people that,
hmm
Okay, but I
that
want
you
to
saw.
say, even if it was one young woman who got some kind of help
yeah,
and some kind of information, that's still huge because it's such a pivotal time in a young woman's life. And there's so
Mhm.
much misinformation or no information.
mm,
Exactly. So when I was reading over, all of the information and getting ready for today, the one thing that kept popping up in my mind was because we see it here in the States all the time.
Mhm.
I was wondering even I mean, and it's always been that case. I mean, back when we were kids, I mean, and I'm sure now, did you get any pushback from the parents about having this program in the schools? And did you get any pushback from parents from having boys attend the program as well? Which I applaud you for having the boys in the class because
Mm,
boys need to know this too. They're affected not in the same way, but they have sisters or mothers or friends,
mm.
or they may one day be parents, or they're trans or whatever.
Or they write our laws, or
Yeah,
they
or
try
yeah,
to.
yes,
Or they're
they write our
gynecologists,
laws. Yes, exactly. So I applaud you for
pretty
that.
much.
When I
Yeah.
read that, I was like, that hallelujah, that is amazing. Did you get any pushback?
No, thankfully.
Wow.
No, I haven't. Obviously, it's entirely up to the school if they want the boys to be present or not. Most of the schools I have attended have been like just all girls schools anyway. But I did have a school on Friday, so there was like 30 girls and 21 boys, and they were age 11 to 13, so they were fifth and sixth class kids. A couple of the boys had some really good questions, and it was actually really lovely because
Good.
I mean, for the most part, they were like, "Oh my god," you know,
Yeah, of
and the
course.
girls were like, "Oh my god."
There's
But
grown women who are like that with
yeah,
this
yeah.
topic.
One boy, so obviously I talk about the different products. Like I was like, so you know, there's pads and then there's tampons. And one guy was like, I've heard that tampons can be toxic, and everyone started laughing. And I was like, that's actually really, it's a really good question, you know. And then I went
Smart
Mhm.
into
kid.
toxic shock syndrome. It was really nice. It was really nice, and there was a male teacher there. There was always like a male teacher present with the boys. And then the boys, so they're only there for like the first half of the talk, and then they get taken away, and then the girls kind of like move in, and then they get to ask all the questions that they want, and then I kind of go into a bit more in depth, like how to track your cycle, different types of discharge, how to insert a tampon, how to use a pad, how to use a menstrual cup, that kind of thing. So like boys don't really need to know how to put in a tampon. So
Sure.
um unless they're trans. Yeah, so they stay, obviously. Honestly, I haven't really had any, thankfully haven't had any pushback from the parents. I've had a couple of really nice messages from parents whose kids got the kits, and they're absolutely delighted with them. And yeah, they just seem so happy with their like they're really pretty, the pads. I have them here. Can I show you?
Yes,
Absolutely.
please.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. This is the starter kit. So I have this open and I show them what they get in their kit. So these are the pads. So they're really pretty.
They are
Oh, they are.
pretty.
They really are pretty.
Yeah. And then they're like the backs as well. So they're
Oh,
really
wow.
lovely, and the girls are just, they're so happy because they're so pretty and they're so soft, and they're like, "Oh my god." And they work
And
pretty much, the reason I chose cloth pads is because they're so similar to, I mean, pretty much everyone starts off using pads when they get their first period. So
mm,
these are like, they're the
and
exact same as the
and they're
disposables.
thin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you're younger than us, Amy, but when I started my period, I mean, I was young. I was 10 when I started. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was itty bitty. I remember, oh God, the pad the pad that my mom presented me with, I swear to you,
Like
was
this.
it was so thick. It was easily like 2 inches thick,
Yeah.
and it was long and it was wide. And I'm like, who?
Like maternity pad
Yeah, I was like, who is this for? I mean, I swear to you,
or postpartum pad. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I felt like I was wearing a diaper. I felt like
Yeah.
I was not walking in my normal way because it felt like there was this mattress between my legs. It was this horribly self-conscious, uncomfortable thing. The fact that the pads that you're presenting to these girls are like literally the thickness of a panty liner.
Yeah. They're
I
they're really comfy as well.
they and they're shaped, you know, like the shapes of a woman's body, and it's not this like rectangular brick. So I have to say I felt a little jealous for little itty bitty me because I was like, oh, I had to wear a mattress between my legs. It was awful for women, people who are menstruating now and starting their periods now. You were very lucky.
They're so lucky. Like, I mean, they like literally nothing has to stop them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can get sports shorts with, so they're essentially just shorts with a built-in underpants,
Mhm.
with built-in gusset. You can get like workout leggings, you can get swimsuits, you can get bikini bottoms, you
Yeah,
can
that
get
amazed me.
different
I had no
variations of
idea.
period pants. You can get like boxer short style, high waist, bikini briefs, you can get thongs. Like there's so many options nowadays. There's menstrual cups, menstrual discs. There's so many options available to them now, whereas we just had pads of tampons. And that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
it. You know,
And
and if you didn't use tampons, then you just couldn't
You
swim.
couldn't do
You didn't have
half of
to
the
use
things
them.
that you wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
So
for people who don't know about these reusable products, do you just throw them in the wash machine?
just throw them in the washing machine. Yeah. So these are made by a company in India called EcoFem, and I've been working with EcoFem for the last 5 years. And they're the only pad that I stock because what I love about them is EcoFem have a pad for pad program. So for every pad that, so when I'm putting in an order, I pay a pad for pad contribution. So for every pad that the customer of mine buys, they're contributing towards this pad for pad scheme. And EcoFem distribute similar kits to young women in rural India through their educational programs, which is amazing. So it's kind of like a two for one,
Yeah,
essentially.
that's
So
fantastic.
for
It
every
really
kit
is.
that I buy, every starter kit that I buy for a student here, a young woman in rural India gets a kit. And they wouldn't necessarily have access to like washing machines and stuff like that. So they are really easy to wash by hand.
Mm,
And they're organic cotton, so the more you wash them, the more absorbent they get, and they dry really quickly, and they can last for up to 5 years. So they're just a really smart product. But I mean, there's nothing new about cloth pads. I mean, cloth
right.
pads existed before disposables ever did, before washing
Yep.
machines did. It's so funny. Like
Yeah.
we all had cloth nappies before washing machines, and now even cloth nappies now, the modern cloth nappies are so different to the terry
Mm,
cloth and the safety pin. You've literally got Velcro snaps. Same concept, you just throw them in the washing machine with your regular laundry because there's nothing dirty about
mm.
period blood. And that's the one
Well,
thing that I try and get across to the girls as well. There's nothing dirty about it.
What is the impact on the environment to switch to reusable pad versus buying something off the shelf that is disposable?
So for example, the 240 kits that I've supplied so far, they have the potential to save 78,000 disposable products from
Wow.
wow.
entering landfill and waterways. And that's just 240 people. I mean, there's 5,000 students in schools here in Waterford. That's just County Waterford. So if all of those had reusable pads, the potential impact that they can
Mm,
have, even on like the pockets of the family, like they can save up to 156,000 euro over the next 5 years just by switching to reusable products, because
right.
period products, they're not that cheap. I mean, I
Right.
know you can get like a pack of tampons for 2.99, but someone with PCOS, really heavy periods, mightn't necessarily be able to afford more than that.
Right. Well,
You know
and
what I
just some people in general, whether they have PCOS or not,
mean?
um, they're not cheap. I mean, period products are
Oh,
expensive
yeah.
and they're full of all kinds of
Yeah.
toxins and endocrine disruptors and things like that. But if you're a kid living in poverty, or if you're right at the level of some sort of financial insecurity, you get your period, and that's a whole new expense that your family has to account for that your family may not be able to absorb. If you can have access to products that are reusable, thus saving your family money. I mean, that's that's a huge consideration for people.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, it's not just period poverty, hygiene poverty is an issue here as well. There's a great
Mhm,
company called Hygiene Hubs. So they basically collect and they work with companies, and companies run like these huge donation drives. And it's just basic stuff like toothbrushes, bars of soap, shower gel. Some people literally have to choose between buying sanitary products, buying a packet of pads and tampons, or toothpaste to brush their teeth. Do you know what I mean?
mhm, mhm.
It's just sad, and it shouldn't be the case. And there is a great initiative that the government have done here. So every public library in the country has free period products. So you can go into any public library and you can take what you want, what you need. Yeah, it's amazing. And some of them have even started to introduce reusables as well. I think we're working on kind of getting more reusables into the libraries here in Waterford. So I mean, you can just go in and you can get like, hopefully someday you'll be able to just grab a cloth pad or a menstrual cup and just take it away with you. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it makes sense. But then again, I was thinking why there was the report came out last year on the chemicals it found in period products because they're not regulated.
Right.
Most
Mhm.
cosmetics have to go through such a strict regime before they can even go into like consumer testing and stuff like that. But period products don't. And I think there was a study done, I think it came from the US, on
Mhm.
like, I don't even know how many, was it 15 different brands they tested? And it's just sad that people have to choose between going without or using these disposables that, whatever about the health impacts, but like the environmental impacts as well, it shouldn't have to be just go without or
Right.
this.
Even the products that were specifically marketed as all natural and organic still had the chemicals. So there
Yeah,
aren't a whole lot of really great options for women right now.
no. And the thing is, like, organic cotton's great, but it's still cotton. It's still,
Yeah.
it still requires a huge amount of water to grow.
They're not great solutions for sure.
No, it's not a
Right.
great solution. And I know these are organic cotton as well, but at least they last.
They're reusable.
They
Right.
last for
Right.
5 years if
Yeah.
taken
Right.
care of properly. I've had mine now for like over 6 years. I had a menstrual cup. At the only like I had to change the size because I had a baby. That was the only reason. Otherwise, I mean, they last for 10 years or
Mhm.
more even if you take care of them properly. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I wonder when it says that they last up to 5 years,
hmm
what changes at the 5-year mark? I mean, are they no longer absorbent?
No, they're
What
still absorbent. So like they're backed by like a breathable, waterproof polyurethane layer that can only take a certain amount of washes, I suppose. You
got
know, and
it,
you
okay.
can still use them. They'll still be absorbent, but they won't necessarily be leak proof.
Okay,
And this is
okay.
one of the panty liners that has the waterproof backing, but I actually have panty liners without as well. So obviously the cotton is it's just going to continue absorbing, no matter how many washes it gets. But I think it's more to do with like the polyurethane layer mightn't necessarily be as great
Got it, okay,
after a certain
okay,
amount of washes,
okay.
up to 5 years, sometimes more. It depends how often you're washing them. Some people mightn't necessarily have a period every month. It depends how you wash them as well. Obviously, if you're hand
Mm,
washing, they'll probably last a bit longer as well. And the thing is, like reusables, they're great, but they're not necessarily cheap either. They are an investment. So the fact that they should, you know, making them more accessible, it just makes
Yep.
sense.
Well, I think it's fantastic work that you're doing. I think it's amazing. Women need to be supported in all areas. But one of the things that I'm really excited to talk to you about, and something that Raquel and I have wished that we had in our schools growing up, is the education around our body parts as a female.
Mhm. Yeah.
I saw a video that you did on Instagram where you had a little crocheted or a little stuffed animal of the vulva. Do you
Yes.
have that? Could you
I
give us,
do. I
could you
do.
do
yeah,
that
I loved
little,
that.
could you train our audience or teach us the parts of our
I
female body anatomy?
I think everybody should have one of those.
Mhm, mhm.
I
It's
really
so
do.
these came from Ecofem as well, so they're hand crocheted.
I'm gonna order one, I need
I
one.
think yeah, I think that's lovely.
They're just absolutely like, and one thing that blows everyone's minds is the uterus.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uterus.
Oh, it's
I
so
love it.
cute.
It really is.
And the fact that it's pretty much, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty much
smaller than your fist.
it's life size. So like that's
Yeah.
your uterus is the size of your fist. A lot of people don't realize that because every diagram you see, it looks huge.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like it's the big center of your body.
Yeah. And it certainly feels that way sometimes, but
Yes,
it's
it does.
actually just so small.
Wow.
And another thing that blows their minds is it's the strongest muscle in the human body.
Mhm.
Well, that
Yeah. And I always
that
ask the
seems
kids if they
right.
can guess why that is.
Yeah, and you know what? In one of your videos on Instagram, you mentioned that it gets heavier
Heavier, yes.
during the
Yeah.
period, and I thought back to when I was a kid and menstruating, and I was, I had questions about why do I feel a certain way? Why does it just, why do I just feel heavy? And when I heard you say that, I thought, "That's exactly it," and no one had here I am, 55 years old, no one had ever explained it to me that way.
Yeah. There is a common misconception that it doubles in size, but it doubles in weight because with the water retention from the progesterone and the excess blood flow going to that area, yeah, like
Yeah, it
it's
makes sense.
amazing. It makes sense.
And
It
you
does.
were about to say, why is it the strongest muscle?
That's one thing that I ask the students. Can anyone guess as to why it's the strongest muscle?
But I don't know.
Oh, I could because it has to support. Sorry. So it is the strongest muscle in the human body because it has to support life, basically.
Mm,
Yeah.
has to push out a baby,
Has to hold a baby, grow a baby, and push it out. Yeah.
and it's literally the
It's
size
yeah,
of your fist.
roughly about the size of your fist. Yeah.
And I don't know
Mind
about you,
blowing.
Jennifer, I don't know if you remember anybody saying that, but I don't remember anybody saying
No, I
your
didn't know that.
uterus is smaller than
No,
the back of
but
your hand. I had nobody say that to me.
there's a viral photo. Oh God, it's like it's a few years old now. This was before AI or anything. So like this girl actually like the entire lining of her uterus came out during her period and it was the size of her palm and people were like, "Oh my
Wow.
God." Like it's so small. But yeah, it's a bit crazy when you think of it. Like I mean, it gives you so much
Yeah,
aggro as well for something so small.
it's small and mighty.
It is small and mighty, yes. And then this is my vulva.
I love that.
I think that is absolutely beautiful.
It has a removable clitoris. So I don't really go into that with the kids. I tell them what it is. It's a
Mhm.
bundle of nerves and some glands, and then this is just to show you the urethra. And then this is the vaginal opening, and I actually managed to fit like the tampons and stuff in here so I could show
Mm,
them how to put a tampon in. And then it has like a little bum hole as well.
love
Oh,
it.
very
And
nice.
and I
Oh,
love that you
yeah.
explained to them that this is where the pee comes out, this is where the tampon goes, this is where the poo comes out. It's like they're
Yeah.
3 different things.
Okay,
3
we need
different
to do
things.
that for our politicians of the
Yes!
we need to have that. This is how it works, guys.
Oh
This
my
is how
god,
it
Yeah.
works.
we should
There was
totally
a
do
few
it.
videos of before the presidential election, and there was a few women going around asking men like just basic questions.
Yes.
Like, can a woman pee with the tampon in?
Yes.
Most of
They're
them were
so
like,
stupid.
no,
They're so
no.
stupid.
Like,
They're so
no,
uninformed.
Okay,
God
no,
that I
bless
was
'em.
take it
gonna say
out.
that. I was gonna say that. I don't think people are stupid.
Okay, they're uninformed.
I think that this was done on purpose. We
Mhm.
have not educated
No.
women or men about
Right.
women's bodies on
Exactly.
purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. That is very true. That is
Yeah.
very
And
true.
it's really important that we do. In fact, I need to order that.
Mhm.
Could you say quickly, because I think this is a big misconception. you were just showing us with that
Yes.
toy, crocheted, it looks like, that's the vulva, not the vagina. And could you tell our listeners what the difference is?
So the vagina is only one part of the vulva. The vulva consists of everything, basically. The labia, inner and outer labia. So they protect the urethra and they protect the vagina from infection and everything else. And you have the clitoris as well, which is a bundle of nerves, and that has all these glands which sit behind the labias underneath. So yeah, like I mean, it's just another example of how little a lot of people know, because it's always most commonly referred to as the vagina, isn't it?
Mhm.
Overall,
All
it's
the
actually,
time.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the whole
all
thing.
the time. Yeah, the
Well,
whole thing.
women in general.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a
Yes.
vagina. There's a
Yeah.
vagina on
A
legs.
walking vagina just walked past me. No.
That's it, you know? Actually, it's vulva. Thanks, though.
There's a
Um,
vulva walking past me.
I don't mean to be like that, but with this movement in the country right now to go back to bigger restrictions, they want us to know even less.
I
Exactly.
know, but you know what? It's really not a surprise. I was on a call on Tuesday. It was part of just a discussion group with other period educators, and I was talking with a woman she's in the UK. She's in her fourth year in medical school, and in the last 4 years, they have done nothing on the
Not
menstrual cycle.
surprised.
I, I,
Absolutely nothing on periods,
I'm
nothing
not
on the menstrual
surprised,
cycle. They've done
but it breaks my heart.
respiratory system, the nervous system, literally nothing about periods or the menstrual cycle or anything else that goes with it.
And
Like,
probably nothing about the hormones or
nope,
the
nope,
effect hormones have on our bodies.
no. So unless they go on to specialize in obstetrics and gynecology, they're not going to know. So it actually made so much sense to me why so many women go to their GPs and their GPs have no
Mhm.
clue.
Yeah, I even heard a story
Isn't
recently
that
about
just
a
crazy?
woman who went to her OBGYN
Hmm.
because she was entering perimenopause,
Yeah.
and her doctor said, "We don't practice that kind of medicine here." What the hell? What do you mean? You are right there. You're in that. Yeah.
Sir, what is it that you actually do, sir?
Exactly.
Like,
Like, why are you even here?
explain your job to me, please?
Right.
Yeah,
Why
I
are
just
you even here?
yeah.
Oh,
It all just makes so much sense now. I am currently waiting to see a gynecologist to find out whether or not I have endometriosis. And I've discovered so many things about that as well.
right.
Um,
You mentioned that
1 in 10
there's
people
no
experience.
endometriosis specialist in Ireland.
No, no. So there is a clinic in Greece and there's one in Romania, and people from all over the world come to these clinics. But there's so
Wow.
many. I'm in a group on Facebook, and there's women from Canada traveling to Athens to see these specialist clinics. Like they're endometriosis surgeons. They've got a full disciplinary team of like different surgeons. There's thoracic surgeons for thoracic endometriosis, like bowel surgeons, all these specialists in one place, and this is what they specialize in, endometriosis. I think there's another one opening in Italy now as well, but there's no specialist here in Ireland. And like 1 in 10 people have endometriosis, and it is one of the most underfunded and under-researched chronic illnesses in the world, which is really sad. And that just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. I'm seeing a gynecologist now next week, but the initial gynecologist, female gynecologist that my doctor referred me to had a 73-week wait list. And that was for public and private patients.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
And there's two other male gynecologists that work in the city, and they're not very nice. They're
No.
just not very nice to deal with. I've dealt with one of them when I was pregnant, just really shitty bedside manner.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, and there's so many, oh god, like I was one of the lucky ones. Thankfully, I had no issues really, but there's just so many horror stories out there, just women being fobbed off. A friend of mine
Mhm.
personally, she was referred to him because she had a cyst on her ovaries and she had after her third son was born, her hair periods became really, really heavy and they would last for days and she couldn't leave the house. Like, they were so
Mhm.
bad. She was terrified of leaving the house. And he just completely, like, told her, "Well, if you're not gonna go on the pill, then there's nothing I could do for you." And she was like, "Well, is it because I have, like, a cyst on my ovaries? Because that's what the ultrasound showed up." And he didn't even, like, entertain the idea that they could be connected. He gave her no answers whatsoever, and he was so rude. She was so upset after it, and, like, it shouldn't be the case, and there's so many people out there who've had similar experiences, not just with this
Well,
gynecologist, just
right,
gynecologists in general.
because women aren't seen as people. We aren't seen as
No,
worthy of knowing
no.
what our bodies
Mhm.
do and go through, and that we're not just smaller men,
Yeah.
that there
But,
are
like,
particular things about our bodies that our doctors need to know about because we are half the population.
yeah, I think it was the 90s when women were first included in drug trials
Right.
for pain relief, for painkillers. The 90s. Clitoris wasn't actually added to medical texts until 2006,
Wow.
which
I'm
it's
shocked.
just
Wow.
mind-boggling. I mean, it's literally right there. It's no wonder they couldn't find it. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
it's no
Now it all
wonder
makes
Yeah,
they
sense.
weren't where it
it
was.
all makes sense. Oh my
It's
God.
I've had so many pennies dropped these last few months. I'm like, wow. Yes. It's really sad. It's really sad. So yeah, I think I'm gonna see what this gynecologist says. I'm gonna meet her anyway and see what she says. But if I need to have surgery or anything like that, if I do have it, then I'm just gonna have to pay to go to Athens, which is,
And your insurance
travel.
probably won't pay for you to travel to
Um
Athens for this.
My insurance would have covered a fraction of it. But what we have here is in Ireland, it's called the Cross Borders Directive. So it is essentially because the waiting lists for surgeries and procedures is so long here, you can travel to another EU country to get what you need to get done. A friend of mine went to Spain to get knee surgery because the wait list here was two years and he couldn't walk and he was like, I'm not waiting 2 years.
Wow.
So he went to Spain, but you can basically claim back the full amount and the full cost.
Okay.
Obviously, flights and accommodation are at your own expense, but you get the full cost of the consultations, the tests, the surgery itself. At the same time, it's great, but you also need the money to be able to do that. Yes, you get reimbursed, but you need the money in the first
Yeah,
place.
but you have to front it.
Yeah,
You need the money,
back.
maybe you need childcare, maybe you need time off from work, like, it gets complicated.
It does get complicated, yeah, and so, like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if I am going to go to Athens just for consultation, I'm trying to find the time when suits. I don't want to go there in the height of summer either. I don't like this. The talks and workshops are really busy during school years, but then it's more expensive to travel during school holidays, and I'm, like, trying to pinpoint a time that suits, but God, it's really hard, and it's
Yeah.
probably only gonna be, like, 2 days, do you know what I mean? But it's
It's
the reality for a lot of people.
Right.
it's so interesting in a time when there are articles like on NPR about men's health. Men's health needs to be the new study. Men are dying earlier. Men are lonely. Men are, and that seems to be what's in the
Men
headlines.
men can't have erections. Wah, wah. Sorry. I'm a little bitter.
That's what I'm saying. It's so interesting because men have been the center of
Everything.
medical care. And maybe they're not getting what they need either, but besides that, women have been left so far behind, and
Mm.
especially if it's women's issues in regards to their reproductive or sexual health. What do you wish that you knew when you were a young girl that you know now?
God, where do I start? I'm just trying to think like what would I want my daughter to know? She's 8 or she'll be 8 in April. God, I don't know. Everything. I'm just gonna blow the head off her with information. Poor child. I hope she's ready. But she's already asking questions. She's so curious about everything, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to answer them as like age appropriate as I can. Obviously, she doesn't know everything. She doesn't need to know everything just yet. And my son is the same. He's almost 10, and like
Well,
she's
and
explaining
he
things to
probably has
him.
friends who are gonna be starting soon. I mean, I started at 10.
Yeah, I know, and that's the sad thing. Like, there's probably girls in his class who
Mhm.
could potentially be starting. They're like 9. There's potentially girls in my daughter's class who could be starting.
They could be.
Mhm.
Like age 8, 9. It is getting younger, which is kind of sad as well. I think 10 is yeah. It's so hard starting at that age.
You're really still a child in so many
Yeah.
ways.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what I wish I knew. Everything.
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean, that's
know,
a good answer. I mean, there are
everything.
so many things that we don't learn about our periods and about menstruation that, you know, we don't learn until we're in our 30s or 40s or 50s, and we're like,
Yeah.
"Why didn't I know this? Why didn't
One
somebody teach me?"
thing.
But what you're doing, though, is that you are setting the stage for future generations to not have to go through what we have gone through.
Mhm. I hope
So
so.
so
I hope so.
I think
Even
you
if
really
it
are.
helps
I
one
mean, I
girl.
applaud you for that.
Actually, do you know what? One thing I wish I did know was the level of pain that I experience when I have my period is not normal. That is something that, I mean, it was only last year I met up with a friend, and she had had surgery for endometriosis, and she was like, "No." She was like, "That's not normal, Amy." Like
Wow.
like cold sweats, ears ringing, you're not sure whether you're gonna get sick, so you're there on the toilet and your head's in the sink and you're like, "Oh my god, I actually can't use my legs. Am I gonna get sick? Am I not gonna get sick?" It's like 3 in the morning and you're sweating and you're cold at the same time. It's not normal. That level of pain is, so that's one thing that, and I think, honestly, for me, endometriosis was always my worst nightmare. My brother-in-law's sister suffered really badly. She ended up having a hysterectomy in her 40s. And I was just like always thinking that was like, no, no, that is like my worst nightmare. So I think actually I've been in denial for the last 21 years. I just want to know for sure and then I'll figure it
Yeah.
out what to do.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show that we need to talk about these
Hmm.
things. We can't be
Suffer.
ashamed of these things.
And my mom suffered really bad cramps. Like she used to pass out.
Wow.
Ugh.
Um, so I just always assumed it was normal. And obviously back in the 80s and 90s, it just wasn't. We've come
Mhm.
so far, but obviously back then, I don't even think I don't even know when endometriosis was discovered, but like she hadn't even heard of it until a couple of months ago. I was talking to her about it. She
Mhm.
was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, you probably had it." Like, obviously, she couldn't tell me everything because she didn't know, and
Right.
she suffered for so long. It's just sad, and I really hope that, like, I do explain it to the students through this course that all the PMS symptoms that come with it, you might experience some of these, you might experience none of them. Some
Mhm.
people are really lucky, some people don't have any cramps. Some people have cramps that are so bad. If you have this level of pain and nothing is helping, then you need to go talk to your doctor because it's not normal. And we owe it to ourselves to not be in pain. And I
Yeah.
also try and encourage them to talk to their friends about it. Talk to
Mhm.
their friends about all these different changes that are going on so that they don't feel like they're alone, like all their friends are going through these changes or have gone through these changes. And I know they all develop at their own time, but at least if they talk about it, they're aware. That's how I kind of realized I need to stop living in denial and I need to accept the fact that I probably do have endometriosis.
Yeah.
And
Well, and then you can move forward.
I've learned a bit more information about it. So I've had a couple of girls come up to me through the classes and the workshops. Like one girl, she started her period when she was 10. She was 12 at this stage and she was on the pill because she had endometriosis. And she was like, but the pill's not working for me. And this was last year. And I honestly didn't know what to say to her. I didn't have any other information for her. And another girl was saying that she has it, but she was told that she's too young for surgery. I think she was 16. Apparently, the only way I've known for sure is by getting a laparoscopy, but I think she was told that she was too young for that. I didn't know whether that was the case. I didn't think there was such a thing as being too young for surgery. I mean, you have newborns with getting open heart surgery. I don't know if that's particularly true, but I couldn't say it to her because I actually didn't know. So I had to go home and actually research it. So like there's stuff that I don't know either. But now I do know a little bit more about it. And even then, there's so much that I don't mention and don't talk about,
Mm.
because it's only like 2 hours and there's just so much to cover. And I don't actually bring up PCOS or I don't bring up adenomyosis. Is that it's another kind of similar to endometriosis.
So many of our listeners are not in Ireland, but I'm sure are very interested in period education, not just for young girls who are approaching menstruation age, but maybe also for themselves. What message do you think that we all need to hear?
I think if you have questions, just ask. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I mean, how else are you going to learn if you don't ask? Having those conversations with friends, with your trusted person, whether it's your mother, your sister, your aunt, your best friend, have those conversations. Um, because they might have a bit more insight into something, and you won't feel so alone. It's amazing the difference like a simple conversation can have. Yeah, words are powerful. Conversations are powerful. I think communication is key and education.
Mm.
Um, and there's so much information out there online. But I mean, you could watch videos and read as many articles as you want, but some people just don't take any notice of that until like someone that they know or someone that they trust actually says it, the same thing. Talk, have the conversations, be brutally honest. We deserve it to ourselves.
Well,
Indeed.
I applaud you for the work that you're doing. I think it's one of the things that is sorely lacking. And I think I think this is a very political conversation. I think this is exactly what our government is trying to shut down at this moment,
I know.
and why it's so important for all of us in our freedom and our liberation and our sovereignty, and why we need to know about our own bodies, how they work. Thank you for doing this work. Thank you
The
from the bottom of my
education
heart.
education is power. The more you know, the more empowered you can be, the more you can advocate for yourself. Um,
Yes.
Absolutely.
so hopefully, I mean, even if these 12-year-old girls don't go away remembering absolutely everything, if they happen to have an issue in the future, hopefully they'll have that little bit more confidence to stand their ground because there's so much medical gaslighting out there for women
Um,
and women of color, especially.
You're planting that seed for them, so
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea what endometriosis is, but at least if they know when they start, okay, this pain is making me feel sick, or I just passed out from it. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah, that's not okay.
okay. And they don't just accept it. Hopefully. Hopefully it's made
thank
some bit of difference. Anyway,
Yeah,
Oh, it
um,
has made a
yeah,
difference. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you for sharing all of this information with us and with our listeners, and keep
I love that.
doing yeah, keep doing what you're doing. We're gonna put links to your organization in the show notes, and
mhm.
we'll put the link to Ecofem in the in the show notes as well.
They're amazing.
Yeah,
They're women-led, women-run, the Global Empowerment Initiative, the stuff that they do is it's amazing. It's amazing.
I
They
love
do
it.
amazing.
But,
They're such a lovely little company as well.
well, they're making a huge
Perfect.
impact, as are you, Amy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome.
Bye.
Bye. Woo, recap.
You know, so many things kept popping into my head as I was getting ready for today. One being that, and so I'm literally just gonna just thought vomit here in no particular order.
Blech.
But yeah, that one thing that came up for me was I remember that there were the vending machines in the bathrooms,
Oh,
and you had to
yeah.
put in like a nickel or a quarter or whatever. Which, okay, yeah, that was a step forward, but they should just be free to the students. Just what do they think we're gonna do with them? I mean, my God, just make them free for crying out loud. I
There are
mean, they're
counties, Ann Arbor, for example, is making that mandatory in all public bathrooms.
that is amazing.
There are counties that are doing this work.
But there really aren't enough. There
No,
it
there
should
aren't.
it should be a nationwide thing. There are kids who can't afford lunch, for Christ's sake. How are they gonna afford menstrual products? So anyway, so that was one thing. And the other thing that comes up for me is before the convenience of tampons and mass-produced pads and all of these things with all of the microplastics and all the toxins, all the things in them, women were using cloth pads or using whatever they could, right?
Yeah.
And
Rags.
it's
That's why I
rags,
call it being on the
right?
rag.
Yeah, exactly. But it made me think that there's so much about what women did prior that is deemed to be not good enough. That traditional methods, whether it's using rags for your menstrual blood or whether it's using herbs for for illnesses or going to a midwife, all of these things that were
Capitalism.
right, well, right, yes,
Capitalism.
capitalism, it's woman-centered, it's earth-centered, it's nature-centered, and all of a sudden capitalism comes in and it's like we're making
Patriarchy.
everything better and
Well,
convenience and blah blah, and it's like, but there's all this information that we lose, this knowledge that we lose, and it gets replaced with toxins and microplastics and whatever chemicals they use to bleach the cotton, that cotton is then used to make the tampons, and God only knows what it's doing to our bodies.
uterine cancer.
Exactly. All kinds of endocrine disruptors. I mean, all of the who knows, maybe all of the maybe not all, but some of the autoimmune diseases may be connected
Of course
to
they
all
are.
of this bullshit. It just makes me think of women and knowledge that women had before. It just gets wiped away, and so we all suffer from not knowing that. And everything having to do with women and our bodies and what our bodies do is pushed under this rug of shame and taboo, and
Yeah. And
we
you know
are
what?
harmed by it.
And you know what? We ain't gonna take it. We ain't gonna take it.
Yeah, it's
We
just
ain't gonna take it no more. No, fuck that. We are
right,
done. And
right.
that is what this current administration is trying to push us back to. And it
Yeah.
isn't fucking gonna happen.
And just
They
think about
are
the
too-
innovation,
they are
around all this swimwear with pad products. That what? One of the reasons why I started using tampons as a wee one was because I was on swim team.
yeah, I hear you. Me too. Yeah.
Why don't more people know that there are these innovations? Because, well, yeah, okay, capitalism and patriarchy, yes,
Well,
but it's ridiculous.
well, I think we're talking about two separate issues here.
Oh,
So
okay. I'm just putting all of it together because I'm a
no,
little
no,
frustrated.
no, 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 no. It's beautiful. I love everything you said. It's beautiful. It's important. There's the innovation, which is amazing. More people
Yes.
don't know about it, but a lot of people do. I worked for an all natural health store for years. My kids grew up on period cups. We
Okay.
didn't buy, we still buy tampons, we still buy pads, but they're the exception to the rule rather
Mm,
than the other things being.
right.
So they are available out there, but they're available in specialty markets where people have a higher income level. So they're
Right.
not available if you're in a food desert and you don't
Right.
have these types of stores.
Yeah. You can't go into a bodega or a Circle K and find a menstrual cup.
That's right. And nor would you find anyone to teach about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the second thing, you bring up a very valid point about women and midwifery and herbalism and all of those things that women were burned for, by the way. That was all systematically replaced by men in white coats that call themselves doctors. And in that systematic replacing,
That erasure.
that white man's word about what was health and wellness became gospel. We almost idolize doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that science is not important. This is a both and situation. Science is
Absolutely.
important. And women had a knowledge that was passed down from generation to generation that was erased
Mm-hmm.
and also vilified. We
Yeah.
were called and burned for being witches. A lot of that knowledge did die.
Mm-hmm.
And we look to men to tell us about our bodies. How old were you when you learned that your uterus was the side of your fist? Because I learned today.
It would be 55.
Right.
Because nobody tells us that. Nobody tells us that. And
I love
the
I
little
love that.
bit that we learned in sex ed, you could fit in a thimble.
Oh my God, if they had had that little crocheted vulva, like
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed. If anybody is listening to this and they want to see this, go to YouTube because I really love Amy's or go to
Yeah, or her
Instagram
Instagram. Yeah.
because Amy has it on Instagram too. But just the description of looking at those parts of the vulva. First of all, it's fucking beautiful. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all,
It's like a fingerprint. Every single one is different. Nobody tells you that either.
no, and we all think we're supposed to look the same. And then the other thing is just like, it's almost like the opening of a flower. How beautiful was that?
Georgia
And
O'Keeffe knew.
Georgia O'Keeffe did know. And it was beautiful to see it. Like, what if you went in as a 15-year-old or, okay, you're right. We need a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. You go into class and someone shows you instead of, oh my God, hide your tampon in your pocket. Shh, don't let anybody talk about you having your period. Oh my God, it's blood. Hide it. Be scared of it. Instead, they show you this beautiful flower opening. This is what you look like. This
Yeah.
is why we have this. This is the essence and beauty and strength of being a woman.
Yep.
And that is what has been denied to us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is why I'm so grateful to Amy and
Yes.
people like her, period educators, teaching us about our bodies,
Yes.
honoring our bodies.
Yes. In a
We-
way that can make us proud of what our bodies do and take the shame out of it. We're not dirty.
We're
That
not
time of the
dirty.
month is not dirty. We don't have to be hidden.
It's fucking sacred.
Yeah.
It's sacred.
If we all were educated about this, all of this stigma and shame, and that's what Amy and her peers, other period educators are doing. They're helping get rid of that stigma and that
That's right.
shame. And that's truly important. Such a great conversation.
It was. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend.
Or you could leave us a comment and a 5-star review, or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody.